Everyone, this is video number 10, which will be discussing the essay number 2, or the argumentative research essay, in addition to the annotated bibliography. So the essay number 2 is a direct continuation of your essay number 1, or your exploratory essay. There are 2 essays this semester, and they're longer, specifically because we have a shortened 12-week semester. This is a regular 16-week semester. You probably have 3 shorter essays, but because this is a 12-week, it's a condensed. I'm giving a little bit more time to work on the essay, so make sure you're taking advantage of that. So the essay number 2 is worth a significant portion of your grade. It's worth 30% or 300 points, and it will be 5 to 6 double-spaced pages. We also will be doing 2 peer reviews. You can see the due dates in 2 different places. One up at the top of the assignment sheet, the other on the schedule, which is also on the bottom of the syllabus under the syllabus tab on Blackboard. So the annotated bibliography will be due before Thanksgiving break. So SWIG does not have the whole week off. I think we still have class on Monday and Tuesday. So we're going to have the annotated bibliography due on Tuesday. There will be no reflection for that week. But we will have, after Thanksgiving break, 2 peer reviews, and that will be ideally by then. I will have commented on your annotated bibliographies. You'll have my comments on and feedback for your research, and then we will have 2 different peer reviews. The first peer review will be more like the rough draft peer review. So if you send the whole 5 to 6 pages, that's fine. But if you only have a few pages done, that's also okay too. So around 2 to 3 pages, you're going to email me by Monday, November 29th. We'll have a little bit longer to do the peer review, so we'll have until Thursday, December 2nd to finish commenting on your classmates' drafts. Then we'll regular reflection that week. Then we'll have the second week, which is the last week of the semester. We'll have kind of a final draft peer review. So this one should be what you plan on submitting to the final draft, but we'll have a peer review to kind of make sure there's nothing quite else that needs to be changed. And so you'll email me your final draft, which should be around 5 to 6 pages, by Monday, December 6th. You have until Wednesday, December 8th by 11:59 p.m. to finish commenting. And then the final draft of essay number 2 will be due Friday, December 10th, and you'll have a reflection for that week. So that's kind of what we got going on here. All the complex book entries related to this are relevant to the essay number 2. So thinking about academic writing, thinking about what you do next after the exploratory essay. So everything here will be kind of relevant, but making sure you're spending these weeks that you're doing the complex book entries, also working on your essay number 2. So essay number 2, like I said earlier, is a direct continuation of your essay number 1. I have the essay number 1 exploratory essay assignment sheet on here. The end of your essay number 1 should be an answer to your thesis question. So remember when I talked about essay number 1, your introduction should end with a thesis question. Your thesis question is what after you answer it, that will be your main claim, okay? All of your body paragraphs, your questions, your answers, your analysis should be in your essay number 1 designed to help you discover what that answer is, okay? So by the end, answer your thesis question, and you should have a thesis statement. For your essay number 2, you will use that thesis statement to support your thesis. So by the end of your essay number 1, I will provide commentary, okay? So if maybe something needs to be changed or revised, I will provide feedback on that. So if I do, which I probably will, in some way, you should take that commentary in consideration and revise for your essay number 2. All right, so versus your essay number 1, you're exploring and discovering what your thesis should be. That's kind of like your brainstorming in a way. Your essay number 2, you should know what your thesis is. So your thesis is a main claim that should be supported throughout your essay with evidence and reasoning. Okay, it should have some type of analysis to it. It should be on the same topic that you wrote your essay number 1 on. If you kind of ended up somewhere different in your exploratory essay than when you started, but it kind of happened naturally, that's one thing, okay? But if you just completely change topics out of nowhere, you will need to rewrite your essay number 1 based on that, okay? So if you send me your essay number 2 and it is not on the same essay number 1, you either have to rewrite your exploratory essay or rewrite your essay number 2 to fit that same topic. Okay, the purpose of the exploratory is to help you brainstorm and revise and think critically, ask questions, and research. Specifically, so you have that ability to kind of go into your essay number 2 and think more critically about that. So again, the beginning of your essay should be essay number 1, should be have your thesis that you ended with in your exploratory essay and you revised. Okay, then you will support that throughout your essay with evidence and research. You can use the same research that you use in your exploratory if it is still relevant. So if you kind of were discovering some issues and some ideas in your exploratory essay, but they're not really where you want to go anymore, find new research. It's okay. Again, you have some time to do this essay. Do not wait until the end. It will still be a lot of work. But ideally by now, after having written your essay number 1, you shouldn't really, if you are struggling to figure out ideas, you've at least, thought about your ideas in your exploratory essay and kind of filtered through them a little bit and maybe figured out what you don't want to write about. Okay? And so you should still have a pretty good idea what you're going for. And so everything in your essay should be relevant to your thesis. Okay? You should not be, setting up a really good introduction with a really good thesis, and then in your next paragraph, start talking about something completely different. So everything should build upon each other. You have specific language. You should be anything that's unnecessary, whether it be a quote or source, any type of sentence or paragraph that is not relevant to your thesis or your essay in general, delete it. It's okay to delete information. That's actually mostly part of writing, is deleting and rewriting, to be honest. But instead of asking questions like you did in your essay number 1, you should answer them. So if you have any questions on your essay number 1, answer them and then delete them. So the purpose of essay number 1 is to explore, to ask questions. Essay number 2 is to answer them. Think critically. You should connect your ideas that you explored in your essay number 1, but you should not necessarily have a yes/no question. And hopefully the exploratory essay, my commentary, helped with that, ideally. So if you should say, like, should abortion be legal, illegal, that's really just 2 different sides, making sure you're not doing that. And so making sure you have an argument that's well balanced, not necessarily a binary, which is like 2 just opposing ideas. Just kind of finding that gray area, thinking critically, finding a thesis that you can support in an academic way for 5 to 6 pages. If you have something that's too broad, or it's going to be, 10, 20-page paper, narrow it down. If you have something you're only going to be able to write a page for, broaden it up, okay? So kind of thinking about that. You should have minimum 5 different academic sources. Again, they can still be the ones you use for your essay number 1, only if they're relevant. If you need to do more research, go ahead and conduct that research. Explain and describe what you're arguing. And so I know I'm throwing out a lot of different terms here. Thesis is a main claim that you are supporting throughout your paper for evidence and reasoning. Evidence is maybe your outside sources or maybe a personal experience. Your reasoning is the why. So how and why does this information support your claim? Showing your reader why it matters. Your argument is kind of like your overall paper from start to finish. It's kind of like the overall idea. But you should ideally, your claim will be part of your overall argument. Should have again, creative, interesting, original title. Again, your main claim. Should not necessarily just be an opinion or description. Should have analysis there. So opinion, I mean like chocolate is the best flavor of ice cream. Well, anybody could make that have a different opinion, but they can't really tell you why it is. It just is their favorite ice cream. So make sure it's an argument that's been reasoned with, and I'll have other videos about argument as well. Provide evidence and examples to support your thesis, which I just kind of talked about. Making sure everything builds together. So if you don't go off on a tangent. Every paragraph, every piece of information should build upon each other, and your reader should be able to see how they build upon each other. Do not write a 5-paragraph essay, and so your paragraph should connect and build upon each other. I should be able to see how they build. 5-paragraph essay does not necessarily mean that you only have 5 paragraphs. What it means is your paragraph list. So, for example, maybe in high school or another class, you wrote a paper where like your intro talks about 3 different points. So like blue, yellow, and orange. Okay, I just made those colors up. So your paragraph number 1 might talk about blue. Your paragraph number 2 talks about yellow. Your paragraph number 3 talks about orange, and your conclusion talks about all 3. Kind of summarize your thesis. You do not want to do that, okay? You don't want to just list different points. Each paragraph should build upon each other, and your reader should be able to see how each paragraph connects to the next one, okay? And so that's difficult to do, but it is a little bit different from your essay number 1 in that way. But again, if you have any questions, let me know. If you need me to email me an essay, I can definitely look at that and read it for you. I should have at least one counter argument. Counter argument is something that is not necessarily an opposing argument, but something that is slightly different. So what if somebody else had another idea? How could you acknowledge that idea and provide kind of like another side to your claim, your argument? Demonstrate they're familiar with your ideas. You're spending the majority of the semester on this topic, so you should be not necessarily an expert who has a PhD, but you should have spent a decent amount of time with this topic, looking at the research, understanding information on a familiar level. So I should be able to see that. Analyze, ask questions, answer those questions, but you should be thinking critically, not just summarizing. Make sure you edit your paper by the end. Have proper MLA format, works cited citations, and cited citations and proper grammar. If you have any questions about that, let me know. Integrate your quotations with your essay and show how they support your thesis. So don't just, again, provide a quotation and move on. Show how that information relates. You must be 5 to 6 double-spaced pages. 4.5 pages is not 5 pages, okay? So again, if you have any questions about your essay number 2, please email me. Let me know. Again, I can look at a rough draft if you need to. Your essay annotated bibliography is going to be related to your research that you're doing for your essay number 2, which also could have been some of the research you did for essay number 1. But when you turn in your annotated bibliography, especially since you've been doing this topic for 2 essays now, you should have like a 99% chance that the research in your annotated bibliography is the research you're putting in your essay number 2. You hypothetically can change your mind, but because we've been working on the same topic and you've been doing research on the same topic for the majority of the semester, this should be the research you're putting in your essay number 2. Okay, if you find more later, that's fine, but you should use these 5 sources, okay? Again, these are the same 5 sources. I have a typo here. Same 5 sources that you're putting in your essay. You don't have to do extra research for your annotated bibliography. It's the same information, right? Excuse me. Let's see here. I was going to say something else. All right. So when you have your annotated bibliography, you should have a 1 to 2 page annotation. That in each annotation should have the following: a summary of the main ideas of the source, a portion of the source, and an explanation of how that source is significant to your project. I'm going to pause this here just for 1 second. Okay, maybe I'm not. So I have some examples, and these are a little bit older examples. What I think I'm going to do here in a second, I was trying to pause this and get another file up, but my computer's being weird. I will provide a full example for you to look at. But essentially, you'll have 5 sources, and you'll have the works cited citation, and then you'll follow by an annotation, okay? And the works cited citation should be MLA format, not APA format or something else, like we've been talking about all semester. And should it go works cited citation, annotation, works cited citation, annotation, all throughout your assignment. And I'm going to kind of provide a little bit more information on the assignment sheet too. Your sources should be alphabetized, and so the last name or whatever comes first here should be come alphabetized before this, okay? And so there should be an alphabetical order. And your annotation, again, your paragraphs, you can have 1 to 2 paragraphs, summary of the main ideas of the source. So you should understand what the source is saying. You should understand what it's about, and so telling me what it's about. And then you should be able to show how you're using it in your essay, how it's significant to your essay. You do not have to necessarily tell me that you're using it in the first sentence of the 3rd paragraph. You don't have to be that specific. But in general, tell me, how this information is going to be relevant to your paper, how you're going to use it. If you need to use two paragraphs, you can have one paragraph for the summary, the other paragraph for why that information is being used in your paper. However, if you only have a summary and you do not show how that information is relevant to your paper, I'm not going to be able to provide as many comments. Okay, it's important that you tell me what it's about, so I know and you know what it's about, but the other section here is harder, but through that discussion of how that information is going to be used in your essay, I am therefore going to be able to provide feedback about how you're thinking about that source. I have, on more than one occasion, caught somebody writing a 5-paragraph essay that I was just talking about in the essay number 2 through their annotated bibliography. So instead of them writing a whole paper and then having to revise and rewrite, they were able to catch themselves before they wrote that all of that, and because of the annotated bibliography. So what's most important here is going to be that section here, an explanation. How is your source going to be relevant, significant to your project? So do not write a whole paragraph summary and then one sentence of how it's going to be useful. Also, don't say it's going to be useful specifically because it's about that topic. So say you're writing about climate change, and do not simply say this topic is going to be useful because it's about climate change. You could say it about all of your paper, all of your sources. Be specific. Why this source? Why this information? Like when you're doing your complex book entries, why that quote? Why did you pick that quote of all of them? Why this source? How is this specific information going to be relevant to your paper? So be as specific as you possibly can with both the summary and the idea of how its usefulness. And I will also provide a full example, but my computer's not letting me show on my screen right now. Later on, it'll kind of be, I will put it, well, let's say I'll put it underneath this video. Let's go ahead and say that I'll put that underneath this video on Blackboard. So this is due on Tuesday, November 23rd. Again, I said earlier in the video that this is going to be kind of around before Thanksgiving, and so please check for my commentary then. So please let me know if